Hello everyone, Marco here with my good friend Doug Graham, Dr. Doug Graham, who we just figured out before that we've known each other. Well, you've known me for 25 years, quarter of a century. I wasn't really forming too many memories then.
You were just running around the house.
Yeah, just probably playing with balls and sports and stuff like that. But if you don't know Doug, Doug is very well known in the raw food community and also just around the world, especially for his book 80-10-10, which has helped so many people change their lives. He's also done amazing work recently and in the past with a number of professional athletes. Most recently, he's working with Michael Porter Jr.,
Yes.
As well as many other professional athletes. So Doug has a wealth of knowledge.
And Tay Porter now has also been drafted, and he's playing pro. It's Michael's younger brother.
Nice. So
So
the
I'm
whole
working with both
family,
of them.
the whole family.
I'm working with
So
both of
that's a testament also for the work that you've been doing with Michael, that they trust you enough to work with his
with
brother
John,
as
with
well.
John Tay.
So doing great work there. And we're here, lucky to be here in Costa Rica, where Doug does retreats and a number of other projects here as well. But today I just wanted to talk with him a little bit and share some of the knowledge that you have.
Oh,
so
bless.
let's see, what's a good question that could help the people out there? What is the biggest misconception when it comes to nutrition for your average person?
The biggest misconception when it comes to nutrition. Well, most of the misconceptions are big. I would say the biggest misconception is the idea that more equates with better. We've been taught, like, if you get a little bit of vitamin D, it's good. So if you get more vitamin D, it's better.
True.
But you can overdose on vitamin D and die. So more isn't better. And you could, where do you get this or that nutrient? Oh, let's get a refined version of it. Let's concentrate it. Let's get more of it. Oh, more would be even better. But not even vitamin C, which admittedly most people do need more of because they don't get enough. But if you get too much vitamin C, you end up with diarrhea, which isn't really better. So more does not equate to better. Therefore, things like isolated nutrients, what we call supplements, if that was actually better, then so would a bag of sugar be better, because it's more sugar, right, than anything else. And we know that when you isolate nutrients, when you refine nutrients, that you're removing all of their roughly 500,000 other coexisting nutrients that augment their function. So even taking an isolated nutrient in order to create a certain function, it doesn't, like, you could, okay.
This is life in Costa Rica. There's dogs yelling.
You could take the mannose out of cranberry and say, oh, mannose is the active ingredient, why cranberry juice works so well to help people with their, with their UTI. But the mannose all by itself doesn't have the same factory working for it, and it won't. I've seen lots of people use cranberry juice to help them with a UTI successfully. I've seen lots of people try mannose, which is supposedly the active ingredient, and not have successful conclusions even with the same UTI. So isolated nutrients don't pack the wallop. And the idea that more is better is actually so deeply ingrained that it's even after people tell me they get it, they don't get it. They still don't get it. And so when people, if you say to somebody, like, where do you get your potassium? And they're going to say bananas. And what's the best source of vitamin C? And they'll say, an orange or something. Or what's the best source of omega-3 fatty acid? And they say flaxseed oil. And what they're telling me is what's the highest source, not the best source necessarily. And it would be like saying, oh, a size 26 shoe is better than a size 12 or 10 or whatever you wear. Actually, what we want is the nutritional components in a quantity and ratio that most closely mimics our nutritional needs, not just more. Where do I get more of this? Where do I get more of that? And I think that's probably the biggest stumbling block people have to jump over.
That's so true. We just, the society that we live in gets so focused in on just one specific nutrient instead of looking at the whole food, where a lot of times it seems like it's maybe ego too. The more we learn about nutritional science, the more we know that, oh, there's this specific nutrient in this food and it's very high in this food, and then you just say, oh, let's take that out and extract it and put it in a pill, and that's the best way to do it. But obviously there's so much that we don't know. In nutritional science we're learning so much, but there's still so much we don't know about all the other synergistic
mostly
nutrients.
we don't know.
Yeah, right.
There's more we don't know than we do.
Of course.
But even as you say though, the ego gets in there, and we like to pat ourselves on the back. And okay, great, I'm all for patting myself on the back, but I don't like to pat myself on the back for things I haven't yet done that I say I'm going to. I want to pat myself on the back for the things I actually have done. So I talked to 2 people this week, and I've talked to many people about this issue before. Like as you say, Whole Foods. Whole Foods is a big deal. I mean, it was important enough so I put it on my T-shirt, right? Whole Foods. And yet, I talked to somebody earlier in the week who's telling me that she eats whole foods, and she's a chef, and she serves whole foods. And I go, well, what makes it a whole food? And well, a whole food has all of its nutrient components intact. And I go, well, so what happens to the heat-sensitive nutrients when you cook your food? When you steam your cauliflower, what happened to the heat-sensitive nutrients? Well, they got damaged, deranged, or destroyed. They're gone. Okay. Is it still whole food? And she goes, well, up until a minute ago, I thought it was. And I go, well, how about when you cook a food and you drive off the water? Isn't water a nutrient? Is it still whole food after you heat it and drive off water? And she goes, oh no, and then she started saying, well, I used to refer to these things as whole foods. It didn't take long for the light bulb to catch on, for the light bulb to go on, but we, most people figure that if they eat, which is what most people do, if they eat, then they're experts in food.
Most people think they're experts in food.
Most people think they're experts in food because they eat. It's like most people think that they can give a presentation just because they know how to talk. But knowing how to talk and knowing how to present is 2 completely different skills.
Of course.
And really understanding nutrition is only one of the steps towards then applying it into your life. To actually live what you understand are many steps separated from each other.
For sure.
To put it into action.
And that's why you have raw on there too, right?
Oh yeah, raw.
That's the other component that
well,
I guess.
I was in physiology, when I was taking physiology, when I was going through my medical training, the physiology teacher one day mentioned that, just in a quick little thing, she mentioned that when you heat proteins, that the bonds that hold the protein together get cross-linked, and that's how they're referred to in chemistry, as cross-linked proteins. She said these cross-linked proteins are enzyme resistant. So it's enzyme resistant, cross-linked bonds. Okay? And she said enzyme resistant means that we don't have enzymes to break those bonds. And then she moved on to whatever she was doing next. I mean, it was like just a moment in class. But after class, I went up to her, I said, Mrs. Pettit, did you say that when you heat proteins, they form enzyme-resistant, cross-linked bonds, and proteins are often considered carcinogenic, and that these carcinogenic bonds, and we don't have any enzymes to break that down? And she said, yeah, that's what I said. I said, do you still eat heated foods? Like, they all have heated protein. And she goes, oh yeah, everybody does. So to get from the knowledge to the application is often several steps of responsibility that a lot of people don't want to take for themselves. It's just easier to just cook it and eat it, but actually it's easier to be healthy than it is to be sick.
Of course. It takes a lot of investment too. But what better investment can you make than within your own health and getting that knowledge and making, it's definitely difficult in the beginning, because any single time you're changing a habit, especially a habit that you've built for tens, if not 20, 30 years for some people, trying to change how they eat later down the line. But what better investment to make in yourself than into your health and into your vitality and into more energy. I mean, we just spent the morning doing deadlifts and lifting weights and
Doesn't
having
that feel
great
good?
conversation. It feels amazing.
Feels good afterwards.
To have that energy and that's what life is about, right?
I agree with all that except the part about it being hard. I don't think it's hard. I think it's really easy.
No, I think it's
my
the best
perception.
investment.
My
you can
perception
make,
is that it's really easy,
for sure.
and that it's easier to be healthy than it is to be sick. Being sick is really hard. Is change hard? No, I don't think change is hard. I think change is really easy. But if you don't want to change, you won't. But if you want change, it's easy. It's easy to go after what you want. But and if you don't want it, you won't do it, no matter how easy or difficult or anything else it is, even if people try to enforce it on you. But if you want something, then it's the easiest thing. And that's why there's that saying that the road to a friend's house is always shorter than the same distance to anywhere else, right? Because if that's where you want to go, then it's easy to go there. And and so I'm looking at what are the outcomes that I want, what are the consequences that I want, what is the result that I want to have happen. At which point, I don't want to get weaker. I wish to be stronger. 10 years from now, I'd like to be stronger than now. Then lifting is easy. Otherwise, lifting is easy to ignore. And I think of that as either way, it's easy. It's either easy to do or easy to ignore. But I like to think in my world, everything is easy.
That's a great mentality to have.
It works for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing some of that knowledge.
What a treat to
great
spend time with
to
you.
reconnect after all this time. And thank you for all that you do too. If you want to learn more about Doug, you could just Google his name, and sure all his stuff will come up.
Go to foodandsport.com.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for spending the time together.
Of course, Mark.
And hopefully you guys have gotten some good information from this.
There we go.